Hello. Today I'm here with Pearll Warren, who's running for City Council in Ward 5. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming in today. Why don't we begin? You just introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about your background.
Okay. So my name is Tanitha, and that's Tinitha. Pearll, Pearll, Warren, Warren. The Pearl with the two L's is one's for life and one's for love. You know, one life always reflects another. So that's my 2L Pearl story.
Nice.
But I'm currently the financial coaching manager with Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity in our homeowner development team, and I spearhead our Advancing Black Homeownership program. So safe, suitable, sustainable housing, helping people to be mortgage application ready, ensuring that they have all of the tools that they need in the tool belt to veer into home ownership. Prior to that, I was with the City of Brooklyn Park as the Youth Outreach and Intervention Coordinator. So coordinating intervention services that would wrap around the support of young people and their families in the City of Brooklyn Park and connecting them to resources and opportunities to help promote safety in the corridors. I also did that very similar work with the City of Minneapolis Youth Coordinating Board. I worked with Urban League Twin Cities and was their housing manager there, and that's where I obtained my HUD certification. I'm a mother of 6 and a grandmother of 6.
Okay.
I got a dog.
Wow, a dog too. You weren't going to miss any beats
Not
there.
missing any beats there. I'm the eldest of 6 children, so yeah, life's good.
Okay. Do
There's
your
me.
siblings live in Minneapolis, or are they spread out?
3 of my siblings live here, and 2 of them are in Atlanta and Virginia.
And what did they say when you told them you were running for city council?
They were like, okay, girl, do it.
So great. Why don't you tell us what is going on that you decided this was the time for you to run?
Well, a lot was going on, and I saw that in my community. I live in North Minneapolis and have spent probably about 20 plus years collectively living in North Minneapolis. My family moved to Minneapolis in 1980. I was 4 years old when my family came here, and now the snow has adopted me as one of its own. So it's okay for me to say I'm a Minnesotan now, and I love it. But, in North Minneapolis, I've watched it change. I've watched my city in its entirety change, and I miss my city. I really got frustrated last year when the sewage line underneath my house collapsed. And I was like, well, I got to get this fixed. So I called the city. Mm-hmm. And the city said, here's a list of about 18 different contractors. These are the people who we allow to come in contact with our city pipes, and these are the people that you got to use. And I'm like, these folks know they're going to hit me over my head. Where are all the city union workers that do this kind of work? Like, where are those people at? Like, no shade thrown at the independent contractors, but where are the city services? How are they helping wrap sustainability around individuals in home ownership? So that was really disheartening to me. And then just seeing the lack of, the lack of amenities, if you will, within my community. I'm like, who's in charge of that? Like, where does that happen at? So learning and understanding where and how my city works is what sparked me to want to be involved in council. I thought about it, and said, yeah, let me step up, see how I can support.
Well, it sounds like just hearing your work history and all the different organizations that you've been involved in, that you're certainly committed to helping people who've maybe been disadvantaged in the past get ahead.
Yeah.
And I suppose you've heard how the city treats them or their interactions with the city. Has that kind of been how you've learned about how the city works, or?
In a lot of different capacities, more so dealing with a lot of the county issues, with housing and working with families who are in transition or victims of violence. I did a lot of that work as well, working with our young people in our schools, and I taught with Minneapolis for about 6 years. I held a community expert teacher's license for 8. And so working with a lot of the families that were HHM, which is homeless and highly mobile, really, moved me to really want to understand how to help to build sustainability in with those families. That's what sparked me into working more around homelessness. I mean, I was homeless myself. I stayed at Mary's place. I lived in my car with my kids, going through some pretty difficult times, around, I guess I can say it was racism, living in, a city that didn't want me and my family there, right? Because we didn't fit the status quo of what they had going on in their HOA. So they voted us out and was like, yeah, you should leave.
And was that experience in Minneapolis?
No,
or?
that was in Dakota County.
Okay.
That was not in Hennepin County. But I came back to Hennepin County because that's the county that I knew. And that's what, I tried to step out of that box and say, well, let me go and try and live somewhere else. I make good money. I was, an agency producer for an insurance company. I'm writing business. I'm doing, I could not live there. But
so if I'm tracking, you moved here at 4, you lived here for a while, but then you took a chance and moved to Dakota County, and then moved back. Right?
Yeah.
So you're a resident. I'd like to check because you're a resident of Ward 5, though.
Oh yeah, I'm a resident. This was
okay.
This was over 25, over 25 years ago.
And
I lived in Dakota County.
Another question I sort of assume, but you're DFL.
Yes, I am.
All right. Okay.
Yes, I am.
All right.
Yeah.
Just like to check those things because it's not always something you should take for granted. So, let me hear about what your top priorities are in your campaign, the top 3 things you think people should know about you.
My top 3 priorities are safe, suitable, and sustainable housing. In Ward 5, we don't have tent camps, but we do have a lot of deplorable living conditions. We do have conditions that are subpar for our families and community members that live there. That's an environmental justice issue. I was an environmental justice fellow, and so I look at those conditions that wrap around our community and say, how do you expect people to show up their best when they don't get to live in the best situations, right? That scarcity mindset promotes crime. That scarcity mindset affects mental health. It affects how people feel connected into their community. So that's definitely one of my top priorities. Public safety is also a top priority of mine. And then I would say, and that ties into the safe, suitable, sustainable housing, people feeling connected, not only to their community, but also to the individuals that serve in their community as our public safety officers. And then I would say our economic development and livability, which all ties in again with all of that, right? We have a plethora of nonprofit organizations in Ward 5, not a lot of for-profit businesses. We have 2 fork and spoons, one on the far end of the ward and the other one on the low end of the ward. And they're not, family style restaurants where people go in and sit and build community, so we don't have fork and spoons in our immediate community. We don't have a coffee shop, places where people would go to build relationship and forge relationships and feel connected to community, or even to recycle our dollar throughout community. And that's important because that helps to balance out our tax burdens for homeowners as well as for renters, right? And for the businesses that are also in the ward.
Let me try and catch up.
Catch up with me.
So going back to just talking about housing, and you mentioned that there's a lot of properties that aren't maybe up to code in Ward 5. Why is that? Is that because it seems like maybe the city has been remiss, if you will, in doing inspections and holding some landlords to, making sure they keep their properties up to code. Is that what's happening, or what's happening that you think the housing stock is getting is becoming subpar?
That's an excellent question, and I want to get to the bottom of that. And I think within the position of council, should I become elected, I'll be able to learn what that disconnect is in those city services. I know at one time we lacked inspectors, so we didn't have a good number of inspectors that were coming around and checking on rental licensing and properties and stuff like that. So I don't know what the quota is now, and if we have, replenished those employees to be able to provide that service, but I know that there was a deficit before. So I can't confirm or deny what the current situation is.
So in your estimation, how do we, improve the living conditions there then? It sounds like through Habitat Through Humanity, you're helping people to buy homes, but you don't have the tent encampments, you said. So what kind of builds that area back up in terms of housing?
We have to have those healthy relationships, especially with our city inspectors, our health inspectors. They're coming out, they're examining these properties. I filed a number of HUD complaints on behalf of tenants who've lived in different properties throughout Ward 5 for deplorable living conditions. So I know it's a real thing. This is not just something I'm observing and speculating. That's one of the fiduciary responsibilities that comes along with having a HUD license, is that you can help individuals to file those HUD complaints with the Department of Housing and Urban Development and saying, hey, I'm receiving certain funding for this. This goes, our housing court calendar stays pretty packed with individuals in dispute with their landlords behind repairs not being done and things not happening at the time that they need to happen, or for individuals to be comfortable, in certain living conditions. So I think that it's going to take bringing individuals to the table and really having those clear conversations of these are the expectations of you being a property owner in the ward, and having local developers dealing with people who are here within, Minnesota. It's kind of hard when you're dealing with someone who is in another state or, somewhere else, to really pay attention to what's happening with their properties here in Minnesota.
Yeah, one of the, things I've heard, and I don't know to what extent this is happening, is like different out-of-state hedge funds and things buying properties that maybe people would be able to buy, but since they're being bought out by these other companies, they're sort of taken off the market and people end up becoming renters. Does that ring true to you? Have you seen that? That does
ring true to me. I have seen a lot of that, and different hedge funds buying them in a fleet. So they'll buy a fleet of properties, so many in this area, so many in that, and then they,
Do they keep the properties up? What's, the downside of them doing that would be that
they get them at a discount. They're deeply discounted. They do the minimal and necessary repairs, but then the maintenance is, kind of pieced out by some of the property management companies that don't really have the tenant's best interests in heart. They're more on side of the property owner. And so it's almost like these repairs are optional, and not mandatory to ensure that individuals have standard living conditions.
So topic 2 there, I think you mentioned, was public safety.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So what is your sort of take on things? What's the status of public safety, think in Ward 5? What programs do you support that would improve it? And are you sort of in the camp that would say we need to hire more police? Or tell me how you view things. And terms of public safety?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm proud to say that public safety and crime is down in Ward 5. And public safety, in my opinion, comes from a scarcity mindset, you know, where people believe that there is a deficit and they live in that ideology. I mean, clearly it is in our ward, in our community. We have a lot of affordable housing within our community, but there's not enough amenities to support the individuals, as I stated before, feeling connected to community, right? There's not businesses where people can live, work, and play, right? There's not, you know, we have community events and things like that, but the jobs are not plentiful within the community that are paying a fair wage, that are keeping them up with industry standards, that are helping people to live comfortable. You know, they have to travel outside of the community to go and get their prescriptions filled. You know, we have now 3 grocery stores because we got Colonial Market that just opened. Congratulations to Danny on Lori and Penn, which is a cultural grocery store in our cultural corridor, which is great. But we still need, I mean, we have a very large ward, you know, Ward 5 is a pretty vast ward, and to have 3 grocery stores on the furthest end of the ward and nothing that's meeting the needs of the individuals on the opposite side of Broadway, you know, closer to the lower end or in other areas of the ward, that's difficult, you know. Where you don't have the amenities that tie you into the community, you know, where you can send your young person to go get a job at the local corner store or at the grocery to push carts or do whatever else the case is. You know, your young people need to feel connected with the community and the resources that exist within community. Everything is pushed outside of Ward 5, and that's not fair to our ward.
So that might fall under more of your economic development category, but in terms of like
Well, that scarcity mindset, when you have those deficits and they're depleted, that's what pushes crime up. I'm not connected. I don't know what's happening. I don't have, so I'm going to take from you so you don't have either. And we could just sit here and not have together, you know? That scarcity mindset is what causes individuals to, you know, commit those type of crimes. Because I have deficits, who are you to have more? I'll just sit here and not have anything together, you know?
So it sounds like you're kind of saying that the economic development and bettering public safety are very much intertwined.
They are very much intertwined. Yeah. That's why I was saying all of those things are intertwined together, you know? If I got good curb appeal, I feel good about coming home, you know? But if I got trash all over the place and needles on the ground, I don't feel good about coming there.
Right.
You know? The depression sets in when I pull out my block. You know what I mean? But if I got good curb appeal and I know that my home is in good conditions, I feel good. If I know it's okay for me to send my child to the corner store to go get a gallon of milk or whatever the case is, or you can, you know, go to the grocery store, go pick up milk and bring it home, I feel good about that. I feel safe about that because I have the amenities in my community that I need, right?
Right.
If I don't have those things, then it becomes more work and more tiresome. It becomes frustrating. You know, I don't feel good about being in that environment. There's nothing over there but people who don't have what they need, you know?
Yeah, I was just reading today, and I'm hoping to get into this more maybe in a newsletter or another podcast about some studies that were done and just about if you have vacant lots, like cleaning them up and keeping them
most definitely.
Yeah, like that it really has a big difference.
It has a big difference in community. Like, I love the way that my block and my neighborhood or what have you, if I'm outside cutting my grass, it sparks everybody else to cut their grass. Or if they're outside cutting their grass, I'm going to be cutting my grass too,
right,
you know? When I see my neighbor on the corner working on his garden and doing what have you, I'm inspired to want to, let me get my garden stuff together and, you know, and we're talking over the fence. But you see people model the examples of, you know, healthy community and good behavior. And I'm not saying that these things are all, you know, boom, 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 boom throughout the neighborhood, but it is in a lot of neighborhoods. And we have wonderful communities and people take care of each other and they exercise community. It's a beautiful thing. But we need more. Our community is missing a lot of key elements that it could truly benefit from that are not present.
And so any thoughts on what police and, thinking about, do we need more, or do we have the right amount? Are they not in Ward 5 enough? Are they in there too much? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Police show up for me in Ward 5. I see them quite frequently, and I'm excited when I see our officers out, when I see them patrolling and riding through the area. We do need more of a police presence. Ward 5 did not vote for defunding police. We love our officers in 5, and so I respect our police department. I respect their decisions and how they're doing. I would like to hire more and recruit more. I know they have brought back Pearll, which is the Police Activity League. So they're doing a lot of things with our young people and building community. Like, there's a lot of great relationship building that's happening with our officers, being connected with the community in Ward 5. So that's not a deficit. I won't say that is a deficit that we have within our community. And it's a healthy, it's a healthy thing to see our police involvement. They're out at the festivals, they're connecting with community and building those relationships with people. I went to Milda's and saw our commander and, a couple of the other officers out there eating breakfast. They're connected with community, and that makes me feel good.
That's great to hear. I don't know what Milda's is. Is that
It's a restaurant
okay
on the low end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier crime is down a bit in the north side, but we've certainly seen in the Lake Street corridor some really tragic violence lately, gun violence in particular. Just wondering if you have any thoughts, like, is there anything that the city can do about gun violence? Is it all about personal responsibility? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
You may not like me when I say this.
I think almost anything is legitimate at this point.
We have to respond to the mental health crisis that exists here in the city of Minneapolis. It is a real thing. Co-occurring disorders that are associated with mental health. So the mental and chemical imbalance, our opioid epidemic. We came out of a pandemic. We came out of a civil uprising, and there's been all of this grave conversation about this new normal, and this new normal sucks. It does.
I don't know what that conversation is. What's meant by new normal?
This new normal of individuals. I mean, we've seen more death over the last few years after the pandemic than we've seen probably in most of our lifetimes, of people just literally every time you turn around and someone is passing away. That does a lot to the psyche. That does a lot to, your self-esteem, self-worth, individuals not getting the help and the support that they need, on their psychosis. I think that there definitely needs to be stronger policy around gun purchasing, I think individuals should have a psychological evaluation before they purchase a gun.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I have a friend in California that recently purchased a gun, and I have a friend in North Carolina who recently purchased a gun, and their experiences were totally different. Like, the person in California had to wait like 3 weeks. They had to go through all kinds of training. I don't know if it was a psych evaluation, but it was a lot. My friend in North Carolina bought a gun in like 15 minutes, and when he asked them how to use it, they told him to watch YouTube video. They were like, there's plenty of them out there. So, so it really is crazy how different it is by state, like what it takes to get a gun. And, I guess it's just such a regional thing, how much people are willing to regulate them. And, the mayor here is hopeful that he can convince the legislature to allow Minneapolis to set its own gun policy. I don't think there's any chance that's going to happen, but maybe it will. It's just, I'm not sure what the new normal is, but I'm hoping something changes so that we don't keep seeing these shootings.
Yeah, we got to get away from those shootings and all of these things that is happening. But, gun safety is one thing, but you got to convince people to use it. Mm-hmm. We got more and more young people with access to guns and firearms than ever before, So you can say, oh, it's for gun safety, and then you got someone who's got an idea of, I don't want to put all of that stuff on my gun because I need to have it hot and ready to use it when, Well, clearly you did not take a gun safety course or a gun safety training course, because your job is to retreat, not shoot until the threat is no longer present. That's not your job, Your job is try to de-escalate that situation or remove yourself from that situation, not go and pop the trunk and, have it hot and ready to go and inflict harm upon somebody, because when you walked away, you had a choice to keep walking away. Something in your mental says, come back because you're mad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if we are that overruled by our emotions, should we own firearms? Probably not.
Well, that's one of the ways that it seems like if, they're doing if the community or the violence interrupters are trained properly, that's one of the useful activities they could be doing is teaching people de-escalation skills, right? And I don't know if you've encountered any of sort of the unarmed violence interrupters in Ward 5 or not, but or if you have any thoughts on that program.
So I am a member of one of the team that was underneath the mayor for the City of Minneapolis Youth Coordinating Board, YCB. Mm-hmm. So we were youth outreach and intervention services, not violence interrupting. So there is a difference.
It sounds very, yeah.
It does, I know.
Yeah.
And someone told me, Pearl, it's just somatics. And I said, no, it's not. I said, language is important because what you ask for is what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. So if you say interruption, then you're going to get interrupters. If you say intervention, then you're going to get individuals who actually connect individuals to services that they need, support that they need, resources that they need, because that is how you intervent something from happening, Mm-hmm. It's a proactive approach, not a reactive approach, right? And if you take proactive measures, then you don't have to go and interrupt what the reaction is behind someone's emotional,
right.
So ensuring that those things happen on the front end of things.
And just to jump in there, so are people receptive in the community, you think, to those programs and stuff?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. We have wonderful intervention teams that are in North Minneapolis, and I'm going to say intervention teams in North Minneapolis because they are intervention teams. They're not violence interruption teams.
Okay.
And the intervention teams are skilled with a lot of great paraprofessionals who this is their job, and this is, the things that they do, and they come out and they serve the community in that capacity. And I think that's great.
Good.
And I was one of those people
I'm
at
sure.
one point in time.
So does that mean you were actually a city employee at one point, or was that like a nonprofit?
Independent contractor.
Okay.
So I independently contracted with the City of Minneapolis as well as the City of Brooklyn Park for youth outreach and intervention services. I was a city employee with the City of Brooklyn Park as the youth outreach and intervention coordinator.
Okay. So, and now you're helping people get into homes. Which is, I would say, maybe part of economic development, which was your third, I think, top priority, if I got that right. And I've heard that more people are buying homes up there. Is that?
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. We do still have some properties in North Minneapolis that have deed restrictions, mm-hmm. just so you know. But we are working to get those removed. But yes, more people are purchasing homes. Habitat actually just did a great development, the Harrison Town homes that are on the far end of Ward 5. So it's a great development. I was hoping to see it, more like the Heights, the project that we just put over in East St. Paul, because they had solar panels and more sustainable energy and all of that stuff. So I would like to see developments like that within our community that really help build sustainability, not just in the home, but within the family as well, too.
And so I guess I didn't realize that there were still, deed restrictions out there. Like what what can you...
Deed restrictions and racial covenants are a real thing.
I thought they had all sort of been put to rest, but it sounds like...
Well, they've been put to rest, but you still have to go through the steps of getting them removed, because they still show up in title work when individuals are looking to purchase a home.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I hope we get that taken care of.
I hope so, too.
So
who knows when someone wants to uphold those things?
So what else, for economic development in terms of like how does the city council help small businesses or attract other employers to the north side? Is it, I know there's the Blue Line. I don't know if that impacts Ward 5 or not. Does that? It does, right? Like that's, so I've heard the corridor along there. I don't know if people are being displaced, but and then there's the
Terry, I'm not a fan of that train. Don't you start talking about that train with me.
Well, all right, and then one other thing before you get, they're doing that new park, right?
North Commons?
Yeah.
The
so
redevelopment, beautiful.
with all that stuff combined, is any of that sound good? Is any of that going to...
The park development, all of that stuff sounds great. You said connecting community to businesses and small businesses. That's where constituent services comes in. Mm-hmm. This job with council is all about constituent services, really listening to your community, finding out what businesses they would like to come and stay, right?
Yeah.
Because we want businesses that are going to stay in the ward, not just come here, serve us for 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 years or whatever, and then you look up in the next minute they're gone. We want sustainable businesses within the community, but they're only going to be able to sustain if they're meeting the needs of the actual constituents that live there, right?
Right.
And they're a part of the process of saying, yes, we would like to see this business here. Yes, we would like to see that business here. When Aldi's left our ward, people were devastated behind that, you know? Because we appreciated the Aldi's grocery store. Now the space is now Colonial Market, kudos to my brother Danny. He's opened up that in our cultural corridors. It's meeting the needs of a lot of our Hispanic individuals that live in the ward and individuals who also like to cook, Hispanic food, right? Because it's good, right? So that's a plus, But again, listening to the needs of the community, finding out what businesses they want to see come there or businesses they would like to start up so that they can have the opportunity again to live, work, and play. It all comes with constituent services. And I'm excited about the restoration of North Commons Park. I learned to swim there when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Learn to what?
Swim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like Ward 5, like the rest of the city, uptown, different areas, like the obstacle, one of the obstacles is like convincing people that you're open for business, that it's safe to do business here, that you want people to do business here. And, it's been kind of like spotty in different parts of the city. I mean, obviously the North Loop is booming, but that to me is like, how do you get a vision out there? How do you attract people who might be wanting to open up a new business to come to your neighborhood?
We got a Broadway. People spend so much money to travel halfway across the other half of the United States to go to Broadway in New York. We got Broadway right here in North Minneapolis. You should be able to put on your bests of your best and come out there and enjoy yourself on Broadway right here in North Minneapolis, It should be well lit. The sidewalk should be widened. We should have beautiful flower pots and, you know, lights that you see on our street lights like you do when you drive up and down Lindell Avenue or Nicollet Avenue, because it's a highway. It's a beautiful street, you know. Why can't we have it all lit up and pretty so that, you know, it's welcoming and attracting, you know?
Yeah.
Foolishness hides in the dark. But when the lights is on, doesn't just hang around there like that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So let's lighten up our community. Let's light it up. Let's make it beautiful, so that people feel, like you said, welcome and invited. I'm gonna stay away from that train. I'm not happy about that train.
Okay.
Or the rigmarole around all of the anti-displacement and individuals getting to pick and choose what's valuable to them and what's not, you know. That's not fair. That's not fair to our community.
Well, I would love to see the state be able to put in these rails and have people use them without them losing tons of money. I mean, I don't know if they're ever going to finish the green line going from Eden Prairie to downtown. And I mean, this is just a little side note, my personal opinion, but it's like the high speed buses work really well.
They do.
And, you know, we still lose money on those, but not as much as we lose on the trains. So I don't know. I hope regional planning goes in a different direction in terms of, you know, I'm not sure the Met Council is doing a good job of planning all these things out. But that's just my little aside. So when you look around the ward, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to talk to your current council person, Ellison. If so, I'd love to hear what, you know, that experience was, but also just to hear, like, do you have any thoughts about his decision to basically take up residence at Harvard and leave the ward on its own, except to come back occasionally for the council meetings?
I wish him success on his journey, you know. Success is a journey, not a destination, so I wish him success on his journey. The thing that disheartens me is the lack of coverage that our community has at this time, and the fact that we don't have someone magnifying the voice of our community that's truly dedicated to that. I can assure you that if I am elected, that I will be dedicated to doing that. And I would not, you know, I don't think that was fair to the constituents of Ward 5. So, but I wish him success in all of his endeavors.
Well, you mentioned constituent services as being a big part of what you would do, and it's a big part of economic development. Do you feel like that's being done now, or I mean, have you heard from anyone that's
He's
had
done some
good...
great work. I'll say this: Jeremiah's done great work around our developments and business development within the ward. So I'll give him his kudos and his points for that. As far as response to constituents, no.
Yeah.
As far as response to the other needs of community, no. And that's just not all of my personal opinion, but in conversations too that I'm having with, you know, constituents around me. I talked to him many years ago, probably about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, about having the retaining what do they call those blocks that are set behind Hawthorne Crossing Shopping Mall. We used to have them there, and that would keep people from flying in and out of there up DuPont and what have you, and or having speed bumps put in there, you know, to keep people from flying down the street because they would, you know, do unfavorable things in the Hawthorne Crossing strip mall and then come flying down DuPont. And it's like, okay, if we had a barrier there that would stop them from being able to go out that way and out that direction, doing whatever their shenanigans are that they're getting into over there. And it never happened. So here we are, you know?
Well, it's definitely, you know, I hear it from a lot of residents, not just in Ward 5, but really all over the city, like how important it is just if you, I mean, the amount of people who actually take the time to call or write a city council person is pretty low, and it really upsets people when, you know, they don't hear anything back at all. Even if it's to say, hey, that's a great idea, we can't do that right now. At least, you know, that recognition.
If you call me, I'm going to answer the phone. And if you call me and you leave a message, I'm going to call you back.
Okay. So,
and I answer emails. I answered your emails.
Yeah.
Answering all of these emails. Yeah.
So, just to give people a little bit idea of like what you're like on a non-professional level, do you have any hobbies or things that you do that might be of interest to folks?
Terry, I'm a completely boring person. I don't have a.
I don't believe that for a minute.
No, I'm a spoken word artist and a comedian. And as I told you, I'm a mother of 6 and a grandmother of 6.
Yeah.
Sunday dinners are huge at my house.
Wow.
You know, because the adult kids, they come home, they bring the little ones and things like that. So I love cooking. I love gardening, spending time with my family. I like to travel, you know. I love a good joke.
So do you go to like a comedy clubs and actually do a set?
So I'm going to tell you this, Terry. I've probably performed stand-up comedy maybe 6 or 7 times. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a professional, but I am a spoken word artist, and I have been performing poetry here in the Twin Cities since 1993, 2-ish.
Okay. Well, so anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't cover today? I mean, I think you should make sure you tell people, you know, how to contact you, if there's volunteer activities, where they can find out more information about you, stuff like that.
So if you want to reach out to me, you can at Pearll, Pearll, at Warren, Warren, forward, FORWARD, the number 5.com. That's
Okay.
my email. And WarrenForWard5.com. Just the last of the email is the website. Let's see, we're door knocking. We're out here talking to people, building relationships, loving on community. I will be at Colonial Market this Saturday. I'll have a booth out there talking to people, getting folks registered to vote. Early voting starts September 19th, which is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and you can do all of that at 980 East Hennepin. And that goes up until October 20th. And then the 21st will mark the date that you can vote at your local area polls in your wards and precincts. So, and that's across the city. And let's see what other cool stuff I should say.
Well, if people want to volunteer and all those good
shoot
things,
an email,
okay.
reach out to me. Connect with me on my website. If you go to the website and it says connect with us, that'll definitely get you in contact with us. Donate often. If you love Ward 5, put 5 on it, you know.
Great. Well, again, thanks for talking to me today, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Terry.